Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Hypertrophic Cardiomyopathy Association's Facebook page. And tonight we're bringing you a Share Your Story with Kathy Wilson. I want to tell you a little bit about how this is going to work, and then we're going to introduce our guest. Share Your Story is an opportunity for you, those with hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, to share your experience with HCM, with the HCM community, both caregivers and other patients and families. So we will talk very candidly and honestly about what life is like with HCM, the pre-diagnosis, the diagnosis, the management, the whole thing. You will have an opportunity to ask questions at the end of the presentation, and we'll open that up. I'll put a little "It's time for Q&A" up, and you'll have an opportunity to ask the questions. It is 7:48 on the 19th of April right now, and we're going to be live for about the next 25 minutes. If after that presentation you have questions or comments, you can leave them on the Facebook page, and we'll try to get back to them for you as soon as we possibly can. So without further ado, I want to welcome Kathy Wilson to the HCMA Facebook page. Welcome, Kathy.
Thank you.
Well, Kathy and I have an interesting story to share, and this is a little bit of an unusual journey with the HCMA. And Kathy is going to be brave enough to share a very interesting journey with HCM with us. So Kathy, why don't you tell our viewers a little bit about yourself?
I was diagnosed with HCM in 2012 when I was 33 years old. I worked as a phlebotomist. I'm married. We have 5 children, and my husband is a police officer, and
that's where you're at. So you're in Indiana. You're mom of 5. You're busy working. In 2012, you go to a cardiologist, and they say, "We think we see something here." Tell us about that experience back in 2012.
Well, back in 2002, I had an echo and then they wanted me to do a treadmill plus the echo, and it came back inconclusive. However, I wasn't told that. I was told that everything was fine. Move forward to 2012, I went to a new family doctor, and she listened to my heart murmur, and she said, "You've got a really loud heart murmur." She's like, and I said, "Yeah, I know, it's an innocent heart murmur. I was told it's an innocent heart murmur." And so she insisted that I went to see another cardiologist, so I did, and he did an echo. And I didn't hear anything. I thought, "Told you, it's an innocent heart murmur. I'm good." So then finally I did hear from him, and he brought me into his office and said that it looks like I have HCM, but he wanted to send me for an MRI to verify that. So he sent me to Indianapolis to have the MRI, and came back. He said, "You do have HCM." And that's all I heard was, "I have a heart problem." And I sat in his office for 40 minutes just bawling. I wasn't listening to anything else he said. All I heard was, "You have a heart condition."
And what did he do to treat that heart condition at that time?
He put me on 200, well, I don't remember what he started me out at, but I ended up on 200 milligrams of metoprolol.
Okay. And did that improve how you felt at all? Or did it make you feel worse?
Well, I felt worse because honestly, when I went to my family doctor, I wasn't having any symptoms. I had no clue anything was going on. Now, as soon as I heard that I had a heart condition, my anxiety went through the roof, and my whole life changed. I literally would get up, go to work, get ready, go to work, come home, and that was my life. I always say I quit being a mother, a wife, a friend. I just
shut down.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So then we travel on a little bit. Your anxiety's getting to you. You're probably a little depressed. You're not being really well educated on your HCM. Only you have this and take a pill, and then your doctor leaves the practice, and you get a new doctor. What happened?
So in 2016, my doctor left and went to Arizona, and I found another doctor in Indianapolis, and I went to see him, and he's like, "Stop worrying about it so much. It's okay." And he said, "I've got another doctor here who works with HCM, and I'm going to put you with him too. He said, but first let's get the MRI. So I went to do the MRI, and I mean, my anxiety for so many years was so high. I couldn't lay in there. I couldn't do the MRI. So they rescheduled it because I got in there and I said, get me out of here. And I panicked. So they got me out. And so then she rescheduled it for the next Saturday or for the following Saturday. And I went in there and I did it. And I kept waiting to hear from him, kept calling because I just knew something was wrong. And so when he finally called me on a Tuesday and said, I didn't call you because I've been wanting to talk to all my other doctors and get everything together. And he said, I need you in here Friday for a defibrillator. Well, at that time, Kit and I had just pulled up to a restaurant to go eat, and I severely freaked out. And we came back home. And so then Friday morning, I went there, and they registered me, and they said, well, your insurance is saying you don't meet the criteria for a defibrillator. Right there, I should have said, no, okay, then I need another opinion. So I didn't. I signed the paper that if insurance didn't cover it, that I would pay for it. So then I went back and he did an EP study on me and told me when I woke up, I was in the room, my mom and Kent was in there, and he said I very easily put her heart into VTAC, and so I put the defibrillator in.
And then what happened?
So then one night I was laying in bed and I was on Facebook, and I was like, so I'll just type in hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. Because at this time I thought, boy, I'm really blessed to have gotten this defibrillator and I'm all fixed now and everything's going to be great now. So then I find our Facebook page on hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, and everybody was on there saying, get to a center of excellence, get to a center of excellence. And I even told my husband, I was like, they are getting on my nerves. I say, everybody's saying get to a center of excellence. Why? And so then I got a hold of you, and that's where my life changed. You had told me that I should really, I sent you my stuff and I talked to you, and you had told me that I should really go to the Cleveland Clinic. And I told you I would. So one day I was sitting at work and I scheduled my appointment, but I scheduled it for 6 months out. And I think I didn't want to know. I didn't want to know that maybe I was worse off than what I thought. But by that time I was having chest pain. I was having shortness of breath. I was having symptoms where before in 2012, when I was first diagnosed, I was not. So then I went on December 7th to the Cleveland Clinic, and I was there from 7:30 in the morning till 7:30 at night, and I learned more about my heart condition in 12 hours than I had since 2012. And there was even one doctor in Indy that said, what are you so worried about? So hateful. And I said, well, I'm worried I'm going to die. And he said, you've got a 1% chance of dying. And now that you have that defibrillator, stop worrying about it. And I was like, you people just don't care. So I had told my electrophysiologist that I wanted to go to Cleveland. He said, I think if you want a second opinion, that wouldn't hurt anything. Go ahead. But even the other doctor in Indy said I was not a candidate for a myectomy.
And what happened when you went to the Cleveland Clinic? Well, let me go back here for a minute and unpackage some of this interesting journey that you've been on. So when we first saw you show up on the Facebook group and you were posting, I have HCM and I have a defibrillator and I'm okay. And then your conversation turned a little bit and we could start to see that you were quite anxious.
Right.
And I know the whole community kind of gathered around and tried to give you some reassurance and encourage you to go to a center to get those answers, because there was obviously, to us, some unanswered questions and there was something that was making you uneasy.
Right.
I don't think you could define it, but you just didn't feel safe. You didn't feel like you were where you needed to be. And we were all kind of reading that between the lines and trying to encourage you to go get those questions answered. by qualified professionals.
Right.
And you were displaying and explaining symptoms that were definitely related to obstruction. And you couldn't see it because what do you know? You're
Right.
living your life. But the rest of us were trying to get you to go to that center. So you finally go to the center. You spend the 12 hours. You get informed. And you find out that you are, in fact, obstructed, and quite severely so, and that you are a myectomy candidate. How did that go over with your anxiety?
It wasn't good. So I was sitting in there, I was bawling, talking to Dr. Lever, and I still remember I said, Dr. Lever, I just don't want to die. And he said, Jesus Christ, Kathy, I'm giving you your life back. So, and I'll never forget that because he did. That's what happened.
That he did. So that was the beginning of December, and you didn't waste time at that point. You scheduled your surgery before the end of the year.
Because Dr. Lever said, with your anxiety, I'm getting you in here as soon as possible. So they called me quick. I was scheduled for December 29th. They got me in there. And even
how many times did you and I talked between December 7th and December 29th? Daily?
A lot, yeah.
You were trying to chicken out of that one. You didn't want to go.
Right.
But you got there, and your daughter wrote you a beautiful, beautiful letters. I remember those. And you got there to open them at different times. Remember that?
Right. That was my Christmas gift that year from her.
That was beautiful. So she was encouraging you step by step. And then you had a myectomy. How'd that go?
I did. It went really well, actually. I did really well, but even then my anxiety was still high. I still had the severe anxiety and the disbelief, like that I couldn't believe that this was actually happening, that I actually had open heart surgery. It was like hard for me to even fathom that happened. So I was in Cleveland until I think we were in there until like January 6th or 7th, and we came home, and I know I was still bugging you a lot. So our house was under construction. I went to my mom's, and so I was there for quite a while. I went back to work after 6 weeks, but my anxiety was still really high. Even though I was starting to feel better, I'm like, oh, I do feel better. But I always said, what if? That was always in the back of my mind, is what if? And even when I made my appointment for my year follow-up with Dr. Lever, I remember on the car ride down there, Kent was singing to the radio, and I was like, I'm so glad you can be happy and sing, because I'm so nervous. And so I was so sick to my stomach. And then after I had the echo, and I got teary-eyed because I didn't want to do the amyl nitrate. But Dr. Lever likes that amyl nitrate. So she did that, and I said, wow, that wasn't bad at all. And she said, that's because, yes, that's what she said. And I said, well, next year I won't get so upset about it. Because I always ask them, like, does it bother you? And she said, just like it didn't really bother you this time, it gets to us, but nothing like it did when you were obstructed. So I was very obstructed. They took 13 grams of muscle from me.
And do you remember what your gradient was pre-myectomy? I think you were like 120, 130.
Yeah, it was high. I know it was well over 100.
Yeah. And now you've got like no gradient to speak of.
No, and nothing, something with Valsalva or
no gradient with Valsalva.
No.
Okay, so we're going to unpack some of this other stuff. So that defibrillator that they made you sign off on at the home doctor before you got to the Center of Excellence, because maybe you didn't need it. And when you and I talked, I looked at your risk factors and compared them to the ACA guidelines and ACC guidelines and said, I don't see any risk here.
Right.
And Dr. Lever said, I don't see any risk here.
Right.
So your hometown docs, before you found us, had first told you were perfectly fine, don't worry about it, there's nothing to do but take a boatload of metoprolol. And then they said, you're at high risk, you're going to die, we think, but you might have to pay for this $150,000 device on your own. We're going to give that to you. And then Dr. Lever said, you probably didn't need that ICD, but you've got it now, and you've got that ultimate protection.
Right.
And as you and I have gone through this journey together, you know, you've been kind of let down by the medical community before you got to knowledgeable care. And into what I think is a lot of the anxiety that's underlying, to have a little bit of distrust for what was next, and to not really appreciate when somebody told you, no, this is okay. You're okay over here. You weren't necessarily believing it because you have been given some misinformation.
Right, right.
Now we've calmed that all down. We've got
Yes.
the myectomy.
Yes.
And you're a year and a half, year and a quarter or so out.
Almost a year and 4 months.
You've also taken on an aggressive weight loss campaign, and you've dropped, what, 27 pounds?
24.
24. Okay, I exaggerated. My apologies. 24 pounds, and your blood pressure dropped a bit. So what did you do about that?
I panicked at first, and then I thought, no, I need to call Dr. Lever's office and make sure this is what's going on. And it was running pretty low, and so I talked to Karen on the phone, and she wrote down how much weight I lost. Well, I was instructed by Dr. Lever when I left there January 29th that after my year follow-up, to call him in 2 months and give him an update on my weight loss. Now, I didn't leave there and start a diet. So I started March 5th on this program. And so when I had called him, I had lost like 16.9. And so, but she went and she found Dr. Lever, and she kept me on the phone, and he said that that's absolutely what's going on. And he had me cut my nightly dose in half. And then that was a week ago today. And I, after today, which is still running low, so I will, not as low as it was, but he said I could eliminate my whole nightly dose. So now I'll be on 50 milligrams of Toprol extended release of a morning. And then I actually received a phone call from someone in his office, and I can't remember her name, and I apologize, but she said that Dr. Lever wanted her to call me and let me know how overly excited he is about my weight loss, and that he wished all his patients would do what I said, because I promised him that I was going to lose weight. And because that's one thing I didn't say. When I got diagnosed in 2012, when I stopped living, like I told you, I would go to work, come home. I wouldn't go to the grocery store. I used to love to shop. I quit shopping. I more or less was existing. And while I was existing, I put on 70 pounds.
Ooh.
Yes.
That doesn't help the HCM either.
Right. So I put on all that weight. So of course that added to my depression. So it felt good that Dr. Lever had somebody call me today and tell me that he's just overly excited. And I mean, it makes me want to keep going. I mean, I'm going to keep going. I have a grandbaby coming in May 21st, my daughter's due. And I'm just so excited. And I feel like, no, I mean, I have my life back. So
that is an awesome story. And it is very indicative of many people that I have the honor of working with here at the HCMA, and our staff has the honor of assisting every day. You know, you come here, the first call is a little disjointed and you're not quite sure where you're at, and we help to bring focus. And on top of dealing with the HCM, sometimes it's a challenge to keep you focused. And you and I went down that tough love path a few times, and I'm like, girl, you gotta listen. I know where we're going here. And we did it. Sometimes I wasn't sure if you were going to hang up and I was never going to hear from you again, but we got there. And, you know, Indiana girl and Jersey girl can actually come to a meeting of the minds. It was crazy, but it happens.
You know, you once said to me that you said, Kathy, I am more worried about your mental status than your heart at this point. And I was literally going crazy. I was allowing this heart condition to control my whole life. That's all I thought about. And one day, I said something to my daughter, and she's like, Mom, I try to spend time with you, and all you do is you feel your pulse. You talk about your heart. She's like, that's all you do? And I just stopped. I'm like, that is all I do. That controls me, and it doesn't control me anymore. But that was a long, hard journey to get through.
It was long and it was hard. And the other day when we reconnected, and I said, I really want you to share your story. And there's a few reasons I wanted you to share it. Number one, as I said, a lot of people are coming from a very similar point of view, and they have a lot of anxiety. Some is disease related. Some of it has absolutely nothing to do with the disease. There's other issues. You know, people have anxiety in life. I will tell you that the HCMA is going to be launching a new database soon that's going to monitor quality of life and see what those anxiety levels are, in hopes that we can work with our centers of excellence to come up with methods and mechanisms to help not only identify who has higher levels of anxiety and depression, but to get in there earlier with some really meaningful therapy and approaches to minimizing anxiety. Because face it, we have heart problems. We don't necessarily need to have anxiety on top of the heart problems, because it's known that anxiety makes heart problems worse. It can lead to palpitations. It can lead to, you know, lots of other issues, chest pain. It can lead to a lot of different things. So if we can manage the anxiety and we deal with the heart problem, we find a happy medium. So I'm going to open this up to questions and answers. So if you guys want to write your questions now or make any comments, you're welcome to do so and put them into the comment area, and we'll address those in a few minutes. We're going to keep chatting here a little bit. So if you had to teach or tell people who are new to HCM or new to the HCMA any lessons learned, what do you think they would be?
Educate yourself. Get to a center of excellence. Even if, like me, people drove me nuts saying that, I'm so glad that that was said to me over and over and over. Because I wouldn't be where I'm at today if it wasn't for you. So.
Well, I'm very glad to have been part of the journey, but there was a lot of other people in that journey too, including Dr. Smadira and Dr. Lever and the entire team at the Cleveland Clinic's HCM program, and the staff here, and all of those wonderful people who are on the message board, who were watching your journey. And I got private messages. You need to help that girl. She's really out there and she needs to be brought back in and help her out. So there was a lot of stuff going on, and the community saw, reacted, and here we are a year and a half later. I've got a new heart. You've got a fixed heart. And the community carried us through.
And I've made some amazing friends on friends that I've never met, but I've met them on this side, people that have helped me so much. So it's just an amazing group of people. Yeah.
There are amazing people. Justin shared a comment as we started that your story sounded very similar to his, also misdiagnosed for years. He had asthma diagnosis from Central Illinois, and he had his myectomy in 2011. So, you know, it's not an unusual circumstance to go from misdiagnosis to myectomy. In fact, on a survey we did a couple of years ago of about, I think it was 1,600 people with HCM, 51% had been previously told that they had an innocent heart murmur. And of that 50%, half of them have gone on to have myectomy and or a defibrillator. Not so innocent after all, is it?
Right.
Kind of crazy. So we don't have any other comments coming in. If anybody wants to send a comment, they're more than welcome to do so. We'll take that in a minute. So your messages to everybody else, to get to center, get involved. Don't be afraid to talk about their stuff.
Don't let it control your life like it did mine for 4 plus years.
That's a long time. That's a lot of living you missed. But now you get to have it back.
Right.
And you get to do it with a new baby coming to the family and a beautiful new house that you're redecorating, and it looks nice behind you there. So congratulations on that. And we're happy to have been part of the journey. So we're going to end the broadcast in just a minute here. If anybody has comments after we're done live, again, we will try to get back to those questions and comments later. So Kathy, thank you so much for being brave enough to share your story.
You're welcome.
From where we started to where we are. You're why I do what I do. You're why I keep going every day. People like you that we're able to intervene in their lives and help them get to the care that they need. And that's why the work of the HCMA is so important. And we're happy to be here for you all. Kathy, thank you.
You're welcome, Lisa. Thank you.
Thanks for watching, everybody. And we'll be doing another Go Live, Share Your Story in the next couple of weeks with some new interesting stories. And we'll be bringing some of our new experts online with us soon as well. So stay tuned to the HCMA for more information and have a wonderful day. And don't forget to go to your Center of Excellence if you have been putting it off.